back, Neo-Swedenborgianism. I have here a 13 by 13 grid, which I use for calligraphy. So I put a somewhat transparent piece of paper over this and use this as a grid. But I'm going to use this grid to explain something else today. And that is what I sometimes call the bad news of Neo-Swedenborgianism. So there's this subject of the near-death experience, which is being studied these days and has been since the 70s. And in a consistent way, they come up with a similar result, which is that only about 10% of the people who are resuscitated have this experience. Okay? So that would be just less than one line. So if this many people, which is 13 times 13, had something happen where their heart stopped and they were resuscitated, they go back, they interview them, only 10% of the people actually have this kind of near-death-like experience. Most of the people have nothing at all. Some people have kind of a smaller, kind of a more of a confusing type experience, like a ponderous type experience. But then, like 10% of the people have this experience which follows a clear pattern, and they call that the near-death experience, and it's approximately 10%. There's always about 10% of the people who have it. And from there, so what I'm saying is there's no leap of faith from there. There's nothing at all. That's all I'm saying, is that we then can conclude that we have a 10% chance of having this type of experience. So the question is, what happens when you die? That's sort of what we're looking at here, right? Well, from the data we have available, what happens when you die is 90% of the time nothing happens, you just die. You close your eyes and you enter oblivion and there's nothing. But speaking Neo-Swedenborgianistically, since there is nothing there is therefore nothing to talk about. So if you want to address that situation of your 90% chance of entering oblivion, I would say read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. It's a very thin book. It's less than 100 pages. It's a very easy read and an interesting read, and that's what's called Stoicism. So you become Stoic. So the 90% chance you have of no existence after this, I would say the approach to that was to become a Stoic. And you can't talk about being Stoic, because that's the opposite of being Stoic. What we are talking about is this other 10% chance we have of entering into this near-death type experience. So we're concluding that it is simply physiology. It is a physiological experience that we have. So there's nothing supernatural about it. It is in fact natural, but it appears supernatural. It is an illusion in that regard, but it is an illusion that from all accounts appears to be more real than this. So there's some people who think this life is an illusion, but we're not here to debate that. But we're saying that that other life is an illusion, but that it is so convincing, it is more convincing than this, because it's happening inside your own head, inside your own mind, inside your own psyche, and there's nothing outside to relate it to. So we come to this. Heaven is physiology. God is physiology. Therefore, you write out physiology. Physiology is a branch of science. So, at its basic foundation, this is a rational look at what's happened. But we don't stay there for long, because it's not very fun. And if Neo-Swedenborgianism is nothing else, it's fun. It's our old friend J. Hewitt Mackenzie. Spirit intercourse, its theory and practice. It is idle to talk about the subject of spirit intercourse as a law in nature unless all are able to prove it as such. I'm on page 108 in the 1916 edition. The more hard-headed and practical the investigator, believing only the evidences of the senses, the better is the author pleased to impart these instructions. It does not matter whether one is a rationalist, a Christian, or agnostic, nor is it necessary to have faith in the subject before beginning investigation. The facts can be equally proved by all. Do not waste time in idle discussion about the subject, but make the test of its possibilities by practical experiment. Ignorance and prejudice walk abroad in the world claiming to be wisdom, and hundreds of seemingly intelligent persons will spend years in discussing whether spirit intercourse is not possible or not, rather than spend a few hours in getting to business and proving it for themselves. These puzzling, ridiculing, and doubting ones may be ignored, for they have made no attempt to prove the matter, and their protests are weak and childish. Very good. Welcome to Out of the Blue, number 449.